Add another one to the list for Florida State as a revamped staff in 2025 takes further form. And now Florida State adds defensive line coach Terrance Knighton, another defector from Nebraska, to Florida State. He's Gene Williams, founder and administrator of Warchant.com. My name is Tom Lang, and today we're breaking down this particular coaching hire. We've got video reactions to all of FSU's new coaches from coordinators on down the line, going to be available all off season long. This is a great time to hop on Warchant TV, but let's talk about the topic of today. Gene, all right, the trenches are the most important thing when it comes to rebuilding from 2-10 to where Florida State wants to go. And by all accounts, defensive lineman Terrance Knighton, a.k.a. Pot Roast, joining Florida State staff is a big-time win for Mike Norvell.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love the name, too. Like you said, Pot Roast, that's good. A guy who's 38, so relatively young, has played, I think, like 5-6 years in the NFL and has been rising up the ranks pretty quickly in the coaching staff. Was with Matt Rule with the Carolina Panthers for a couple of years before coming to Nebraska. So, I mean, you love that. And obviously what Nebraska has done on defense these last couple of seasons. And I did a quick check before this to see kind of like one of the things I think we all had an issue with is how the lack of development, how guys didn't seem to get any better. In fact, at both line of scrimmages, you can argue there's been regression.
Yep.
And a lot of that has to go to the coaching staff. I looked at every starter, at least the guys that got most of the reps on the defensive line. I know they run some, more of a 3-3-5, and sometimes there's 4 guys up there. But anyway, if you look at the guys who got, the majority of the reps at that position, they all scored 70 or higher per PFF, which I don't know if any FSU player got hit 70. But more importantly, Tom, all of them dramatically improved. There were 3 of them, I believe, were in the 50s last year.
Wow.
And they went to 70s, which tells you they're doing the opposite. They're doing what you should do if you're well coached. You get in a good strength program, you learn your position. You should get better. That didn't happen to Florida State, but it happened under Nebraska under Knighton, which is to me a very positive outcome. And hopefully that trend will continue at Florida State.
Well, he's got some local ties, at least from his playing days. This is his professional playing days. He was at Temple. He grew up in the Northeast. He was actually born 3 months before me. I'm starting to get to that age, Gene, where people are hiring my peers. Played at Temple, was drafted by the Jags, and he played for the Jags for 4 different seasons. Went out west to play for the Denver Broncos, and then concluded with 1 year in Washington, and he was on the practice squad in New England. The reason they call him Pot Roast or Mutton Chop, again, another great nickname, he's over 350 pounds, at least as a player. He's lost some weight as a coach, obviously. That's not healthy in real life, but in his playing weight, 355. So you've got a guy who has NFL experience because, he, as you said, he was with Matt Rule with the Carolina Panthers. The best part is if you ask people over in Nebraska, our friends at Husker Online, or you take a look at any of those message boards of any Nebraska site, it feels like losing Terrance Knighton is a bigger deal to them than losing Tony White, because last year Tony White had dalliances with UCLA for that head coaching job. There were some rumors that maybe USC was even calling his name. So they were kind of mentally parting with Tony White. But Terrance Knighton seems to be hurting people who are inside that program.
Yeah.
That is always a good sign when you bring in somebody that another program does not want to lose.
Yeah, and do yourself a favor. We got a really good Nebraska site in the On3 Network, Husker Online, with Sean Callahan, who runs that. And then he had a really good interview with Jeff the other day, and you pulled that up here on Warchant TV, where they went a little bit more in detail on White's defense, and you can see some of those things. But, yeah, go to Husker Online. And the nice thing you can do in On3 is you're able to see other message board posts. So, yeah, go see the vitriol, how upset they are losing Knighton. So that'll warm your heart. Sorry, Nebraska. I think we all kind of have a warm place in our heart for Nebraska. But I'm sorry, when it comes to coaches, we got to pillage you guys. So no, you're right. I'm really excited about this, and he's going to have to hit the ground running because we do not know the status. I mean, you had obviously Darrell Jackson and Joshua Farmer. We don't know if they're going to be back or what the situation is there with those guys. Maybe they declare for the NFL. Who knows? But he's going to have to hit that transfer portal hard here coming up soon. And we've seen the improvement. We've seen what he can do with these guys. I'm really excited about him coming in. And, the run defense, he's been really good against. That's something Florida State struggled with. Well, they struggled everywhere, really, defensively, but especially against the run this season. And you look what they've done the last couple seasons, and really in some of those games, and I know you and Jeff talked about some of that too, just the incredible numbers outside, notwithstanding that Indiana game, and I don't know what happened there, but for the most part, shutting down Colorado and shutting down these other pretty good, prolific offensive teams. And a lot of that started in the trenches. And what he was able to do with those guys up front. And I mean, it sets the tone for your whole – ask any coach. you're able to dominate up front on defense, you get to dictate what happens out on the field.
Yep.
And that's why I think he is so important. If he can get the right guys in there and coach them up, I think you see some pretty dramatic improvements up front.
Well, and just looking at, again, when somebody leaves another fan base, leaves another program, and you see what the fan base reaction is, some of the stuff that we've heard here on our own side when we did the Tony White reaction videos yesterday, a live show plus 2 videos, was pass defense. Yeah, sometimes can be shaky. Run defense, they're going to stop the run. And again, so you bringing in when you could bring in a collection of at least a couple of guys, maybe Tony White has other support staff that comes along with him, graduate assistants, whatever it's going to be. When you need an overhaul, it's really nice to know that you're bringing in some people who know each other. It's like having offensive linemen that have played together for years and years. The chemistry is there. It doesn't need to be said. It is understood what one will do. And so you don't need to be checking in on each other, and there's no inefficiency. This adds efficiency to what Florida State is trying to do to turn things over. And as a refresher, again, this in the last 2 years at Nebraska has been a top 20 defense. Been a top 20 defense in the basic numbers, like total defense. It's been a top 20 defense in terms of F plus, if you like advanced metrics. So if you're looking for results and you're saying, well, what have they done? They produced. These guys have produced. Yeah. So now, Gene, you have a package deal coming to Tallahassee where Mike Norvell, again, he's going to imbue Tony White with the power, and Tony White now has one of his sergeants that can help him make sure that everything gets implemented, and we'll get to see that in practice not before long in spring camp.
And I think that's so important. I think you nailed it, Tom, with the consistency. We'll see if they're able to get anybody else, and maybe even a couple of those transfer. I think the Nebraska linebacker go in the portal.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me. Maybe some support staff, maybe a couple players from that defense come over and join Tony White and Knighton. I think that would be a big help to FSU on that front. Yeah, it's good times. And here's the thing, too. You put up those numbers you keep talking about, Tom, and he's not in the Power 4. That's a Power 2.
Yes.
Team right there. So I think that's one of the big themes we had going on. Corey wrote a column on this, just kind of how FSU's brand is still strong. The ability to attract these guys, not from Group of 5. And I think that was the fear of a lot of fans going into this search, that they were going to sign some, I don't want to call them lesser coaches, but coaches less proven because they haven't played elite competition. These guys have. Knighton's gone against some elite offenses and has done well, has equated himself well in those games. So I think this is really exciting for the defense. And boy, now it's all about the transfer portal. We're going to switch our attention to that here real soon.
It is one busy month. This is another domino to fall in what is a tremendously busy month for Florida State. That's why you want to stay tuned to Warchant TV. Hit the like button underneath this video. Subscribe to the channel. It is absolutely free. And be sure, as always, to stop by warchant.com for all the latest information. Gene Williams has the coverage for you on the Tribal Council. This is where these coaching nuggets have been coming from the last 2 to 3 weeks. Everything from coaching intel, transfer portal intel, the recruiting class for Florida State, any fallout, any late signees. It's so busy in the month of December in the world of college football, and it is no exception in Tallahassee. So head to warchant.com for this particular sale. $1 for 7 days. Give us a shot for a week. You will be thrilled with your decision to come by warchant.com and see all that we offer. We will be back here on this channel, I'm sure, with a lot of news over those 7 days. So stay tuned to warchant.com and Warchant TV for the latest on Florida State's off-season of change.